You're with the big story here. I'm Seher Zama. Let's make a start with respect to developments of the case here regarding former Finance Minister P. Chidambaram. He has now approached the Supreme Court, and this is to seek protection against his arrest. The Delhi High Court today rejected his anticipatory bail plea in connection with the INX media case. The High Court also rejected his plea seeking a 3-day stay on this order. We should remember that both the CBI and ED have continued to argue in court that it is important that they take him into custody. Custodial interrogation is required in this case. He was given protection from arrest by court for several months, but now that is expired, and this means that the ED is free to arrest him anytime now, unless the Supreme Court decides to intervene this evening itself. Our Deputy News Editor Meenakshi Bhanja getting us those details here. Meenakshi, we've seen how this has developed minute by minute. He had asked for a 3-day protection today itself. That was denied. There was a sense that he would go to the Supreme Court tomorrow. He has rushed instead this evening. This is a very clear sign that he could be taken into custody any minute.
Well, that's right, Seher. You have correctly summarized all the developments and very, very fast-paced developments happening as we speak. As we speak, Mr. Kapil Sibal, Abhishek Manu Singhvi, Salman Khurshid, they're all into heavy consultations pertaining to the future course of action that has to be undertaken. Remember, the Supreme Court does not sit after 4:30 in the evening. And clearly, this is a case where they see a need for immediate intervention by the top court. And therefore, like you rightly mentioned, Mr. P. Chidambaram has even knocked on the doors of the Supreme Court before the registrar. They are pressing for a hearing this evening itself. So that's the criticality of the entire state of affairs as it presently stands. And this has happened because, like you again rightly mentioned, the Delhi High Court on just a short while back had dismissed his application seeking anticipatory bail, orders on which were reserved for a substantial period of time. But that apart, Mr. P. Chidambaram sought a window of 3 days from the Delhi High Court, asking the Delhi High Court to stay the present day's orders in order to facilitate for him to file appeal in the Supreme Court. Even that has not come by, and therefore the threat of an imminent arrest is hanging large on the horizon, which is why we are seeing so much alacrity and movement legally now take place in the Supreme Court as well.
Yes, this could develop either way, either the Supreme Court taking up that plea or the ED walking in to take him into custody for further interrogation. Meenakshi, thank you for getting us those details. Let's switch focus now to the big debate that we're switching to at 5 p.m. This is with respect to the privacy issue, and once again reignited because the Supreme Court has transferred all cases regarding a plea which is to link your Aadhaar card with your social media accounts. Now, this was based on a plea which was filed by Facebook. The Tamil Nadu government, which had originally asked for Aadhaar to be linked to Facebook to prevent cyber crime, to rein in cybercrime, to track anti-national activities. So the state government now is being represented by our Attorney General, K.K. Venugopal. Facebook had opposed the proposal, saying that their WhatsApp platform is already encrypted. Tracking Aadhaar would lead to a breach of privacy. Let's get in further details. Have with us my colleague, our correspondent Tanima, getting us those inputs here. Tanima, this is once again stops at the door of the Supreme Court because the Supreme Court says we will decide on this finally, whether or not this should be allowed, whether or not this really works as a mechanism to fight cybercrime, and more importantly, not impose on your privacy.
Right, Seher. In fact, very importantly, what the Supreme Court has also done is that it has asked for cases which are related to this privacy issue, which are in fact ongoing in not just in the Madras High Court, but also in Madhya Pradesh. So, as well as in a few other parts of the country, they have in fact asked for the cases to be transferred. Now, what exactly triggered this entire hearing? Now, what we have in fact got is that this was entirely about the fact that the Tamil Nadu government had in fact told the Supreme Court that social media profile users should in fact be linked with their Aadhaar card number. Now, what Facebook had in fact resisted that move, essentially saying that this would be a violation of privacy of its users, and which is why they did not want to go ahead with that step. Now, this of course is also in relation to the fact that the Tamil Nadu government went on to say that it was trying to investigate cases of deadly blue whale game, which had in fact unfortunately taken several lives, as we know that it is a problem that several countries are in fact dealing with when it comes to social media menace. And in order to investigate that case properly, that they felt that it was essential for them to get to the bottom of that particular user who was spreading these messages on social media.
Right.
And in fact, the Attorney General K.K. Venugopal, who represented the state of Tamil Nadu, also argued, saying that as a young, it is apparently the IP address that they're getting so far is somebody who claims to be a person from Russia, and a number of people have died in India playing the blue whale game, and which is why in order to get to the bottom of that investigation, they need to figure out who that particular social media user is. But what we have in fact seen is that Facebook has nonetheless gone ahead and said it's a violation of privacy if they ask for Aadhaar card numbers.
That's right. Tanima, stay on with us here, because each time that we deal with the online media, the social media, there are several rules, there are several grey areas in which laws do not work, and how can this be fixed? Let's in fact get in a word here from Mr. Anthony Rubin, petitioner in this case, with us on the phone line. Thank you for being with us, Mr. Rubin. Are you in agreement with this, that if your Aadhaar number is linked to your social media accounts, it will be far easier to rein in the menace of cybercrime?
So actually speaking, it's just not Aadhaar in my petition. It's just Aadhaar or any other government-related ID for social media or utility services. So my problem is that it's for me, it's not a big deal if Aadhaar or whatever. For me, as long as the perpetrator behind an anonymous portal who's going to be targeting women, children, people, cyberbullying, kids, or targeting people. If this person is going to be scot-free in the ambit of privacy or not traceability, I think that's not cool. If I'm a victim, I need to be redressed. And if you're going to say, no, my privacy is important, but you getting abused doesn't matter for me, that's not cool. So that's one of the main reasons I went into court asking for a relief, saying, the originator of the message, which is very easily, done. Facebook can share the IP address of the person who's sharing, who's making a derogatory post. If I go to the police and give, but they were not giving. That's where my problem came in. And I've approached the cybercrime police twice. Given 2 complaints.
But Facebook could share that if a plea is raised by a citizen and the court or the government of the day approaches Facebook to share that information internally. Linking your Aadhaar would mean putting a certain aspect of your private information there online.
So again, I've not just orally complained. I've given written complaints to the cybercrime police in Chennai. I've followed up personally, and I've also got court directions from the Madras High Court to file a case and find the perpetrator. The only response the cybercrime police is saying is Facebook takes close to 2 years to respond in case of a complaint, which a ticket kind of a thing from the police to the Facebook themselves. And for example, when my complaint was raised and I first initially reported on Facebook, Facebook replied saying it doesn't violate the community standards. So I was like, if it doesn't violate, then I went to the police. Then I got a court direction. It's not like I've randomly done. I've done my groundwork, and there is no redress. The police also has documents to prove, and it's produced in court saying how many cases they have not responded, and that's where the problem is. These guys can help, but they choose to be indifferent.
Not to help. Well, we appreciate you sharing that experience with us. Please stay on with us. Our correspondent Tanima has been getting us further inputs here. Tanima, this is where we were talking about the grey area as far as dealing with the online world here is concerned. And for someone like Facebook here to be talking about privacy violation, having been caught in the Cambridge Analytica scam earlier, it is at the end of the day for a cause strictly to help in society. It is for the cause of reining in cybercrime.
That's right. In fact, as we were mentioning, that this is something which we have seen social media platforms actually being very resistant to some of these tracking mechanisms, which we have in fact seen several times that the government, not just in India but in other parts of the world, has also said that it is essential in order to track down cybercrime. Now, what we can in fact see is that as far as this particular hearing is concerned, that it is likely that it will not just affect Facebook, but also other platforms which are also in a way linked to Facebook, like WhatsApp, in which is an encrypted messaging platform which is owned by Facebook. And in that case as well, WhatsApp also, we have seen, has in fact consistently in a way opposed any move in order for the government's attempts to actually have any sort of traceability of users being possible through that particular platform. And what we have in fact seen, that WhatsApp has earlier mentioned in other hearings that traceability is a violation of the user's privacy. And in India, at least, there are around 400 million people who are using, according to WhatsApp's estimates, using that particular app. So we have in fact seen that there have been instances earlier where social media platforms have opposed such moves.
Right. That's right. Ritesh Bhatia, cyber expert with us on the phone line. Ritesh, thanks for being with us. The question being raised also because there is uncertainty whether this can really work. It is being done on the pretext or in the faith that this can actually control cybercrime. Can this? If this linkage can control the menace of cybercrime, then why oppose it?
See, Seher, there are two views to this whole thing. Number one are those fake pages and all. They definitely will go away. Okay, but that's really not that thing that's making I would say is really criminal or something like that. Let's look at something called as catfishing or social engineering, wherein fake profiles are created. Okay, we really need to target those over there. Now, if I'm a criminal and I want to make such kind of a particular page, maybe I'm going to use a VPN. I'm going to use it from a different country. Then how would you do that? So right now also, whatever kind of crimes are happening are from those accounts, and those accounts are not created in the country. So how are we going to address that? So is this going to be a foolproof system? Definitely not. In fact, I am seeing more and more people.
But it could work out to be foolproof, at least for those operating within the country. It can work for those criminals within the country. That also takes care a huge aspect of cybercrime.
And how it will happen is that particular page which was there will come down, okay, and then again the same page is going to come up now from another country in that case. I can ask somebody from across the border or, in somewhere on a different part of the earth, okay, to create a particular page and send me the username password. How are we going to control that particular thing? This thing, just as I told you, yes.
Okay, so this is not just one petition with respect to the Tamil Nadu government. This is a bunch of petitions. We have independent petitioner Mr. Anthony Rubin, who's spoken to us here as well. And this is what he's explained, Ritesh. He says that he's approached the police. The police says Facebook doesn't respond. They take minimum 2 years to respond, even for a serious issue such as cybercrime. And there is just no action that could be taken against any person operating here, indulging in cybercrime. So, Ritesh, do we need to take that aspect into account here as well on how difficult it gets to nab someone?
It gets extremely difficult. So the thing is, but definitely this particular KYC kind of thing is not the solution. The solution, yes, it is very difficult. These people don't cooperate that much what they should be cooperating. And hence, time and again, we've been asking that, they need to have their nodal offices in India. We have been some of us have also been saying, yes, it's a great idea to have your data localized. So these are the solutions which are definitely going to work as such. So the moment you have a nodal officer in Mumbai, you can go, or like in any city, you can go and knock his doors and say, look, guy, I need this information. So I think that would be a better way rather than these guys changing their technology.
Okay, and, let's in fact get in an expert voice regarding the question that we've raised here on cybercrime. We have IG Cybercrime, Mr. Brijesh Singh with us over the phone line. Thank you for being with us, Mr. Singh. From your understanding of how cyber criminals operate, if our social media accounts are linked to Aadhaar numbers or any other identity, will it help track them?
So there is definitely a need for tracking down people who are using social media or any platform for nefarious purposes. While privacy is definitely essential, and even in a political context, it may be essential, and everybody has a free speech and expression. However, we see that when this is used for nefarious, when this is used to, let's say, incite people to come out.
Right. Mr. Singh, I'm afraid we'll have to reconnect with you on that in just a bit. It's a bad audio line there, but it is a very important aspect that needs to be answered. Anthony, if you've heard the other experts here speaking with us, saying that there are other ways of dealing with this instead of asking for each citizen to submit their other government official IDs on social media. We seem to have lost that line as well, but let's have Ritesh Bhatia look into other aspects here of this. Ritesh, the reason why the Supreme Court has asked all of these petitions to be shifted here, to be heard by the Supreme Court itself, because once again, it's a question of possible violation of your privacy. Is there a fear that this is once again, social media is now going to become a platform wherein which our government official ID numbers could be leaked?
Absolutely. See, Sir, we've always, in the last 2 to 3 years, we've heard of so many breaches from all of these platforms, from Facebook, and more than the breaches, we've also heard about the outages. And cyber attacks are just going to get more and more sophisticated, and so are cyber crimes also. So, so your question, as far as when the leakages are concerned, yes. Now, if these guys are going to store our numbers and all, then again, why are we, the Supreme Court has already said that they don't share it with the third parties. We don't want private players to be over here. So then why are we now, going against the Supreme Court in that case?
Okay. All right, but this is in the name of cyber crime, to be nabbing cyber criminals. This is in the name of a much larger good. Cyber crime is an increasing menace which is getting only harder to fight. Mr. Brijesh Singh, IG Cyber Crime, reconnected with us. Mr. Singh, what could be the other possible way? Can this really be seen as a solution? You link your Aadhaar, you link your other government IDs to social media, and if there's a criminal operating through social media and has his IDs linked, it'll be easier to nab him or her.
So look, I'll talk about the present difficulties we have. So even in serious cases where there have been banking frauds, or there have been, cases where poor people have been robbed of their money, when we approach these companies, then their response to these notices has been very bad. So we do not get information in time, and this is all time-sensitive data, especially regarding law and order. It is a time-sensitive data. We need access to the individual who's trying to, let's say, disrupt public order or create, incite people for violence. So to save lives and to successfully prosecute criminals, we need access to this data. Now, how it is done, there can be different modalities. Since it is sub judice, I won't be, the proper authority to comment on that. But the need of attaching an account to its consequences is already there. So if you even look at the 1950, Convention on Human Rights and Freedom of Expression, that also talks about reasonable restrictions. Article 19 of the Constitution also talks about reasonable restrictions. Public order, decency, morality, incitement to an offense. All these are conditions. So you are allowed to use, or the scheme of things as it is world over, that your freedom is for doing good things, right? It's not for doing bad. If you're using it for nefarious purposes, you need to be tracked down.
That's right. The concern is, of course, to be protecting the ID and data of innocents. There are several million more innocents using social media than cyber criminals. It's a question of protecting their identity. Did you think that's a valid argument to stop this linkage from happening, Mr. Singh?
Yeah, you should look at the, what is called the Shri Krishna bill. a wonderful act is coming up. I mean, it would be turned into an act of the Parliament. If you study the provisions, it's very heavily loaded on the side of privacy. There are excellent provisions there. It's almost like GDPR. In fact, it's more stricter than GDPR, where it allows only lawful access, to data, and only when a case and justification has been made out with adequate oversight. So the provisions of, PDPR, the Personal Data Protection Regulation, which is on the annual now, will take care of most of the concerns which people have regarding any kind of abuse or misuse of this personal data. So while it is essential to protect anonymity and freedom of speech, it is also essential that its abuse be stopped.
Okay. There was also a concern raised by Ritesh here with us, cyber expert, and if you could answer that, Mr. Singh, that not all cyber criminals operate from India, and they would eventually find a way to be operating from another country, and then what do you do?
Game, but it is today also it is very difficult. Apart from social media, people are using other anonymous networks. They are using Tor, they are using I2P, various kinds of other anonymous networks are there. Encryption is there, anonymization protocols are there, proxies are there. But see, it's a game of technological prowess then. And if somebody is hiding in the darknet with the nefarious purposes, then we need to develop our capabilities to hunt them down if they are doing it for nefarious purposes. For any legit user, there is no problem. They can always use any of these technologies as far as they are not using it for any purposes which is unlawful.
Right. Let's in fact have the petitioner speak with you here on this, because he has a personal experience of having approached the police, and the police saying that the Facebook doesn't respond here to these requests at least in 2 years, even if it's a question of crime. Anthony, is there something specific that would you like to ask the cybercrime IG, Mr. Brijesh Singh, right now?
So actually, there was a post on a particular police officer, senior police officer in Chennai, who retired as a DG. So there was a post, a derogatory post on him himself. It was still very much active till I think few months back. I'm not sure even if it's still there now. I've stopped following it. This was told by a cybercrime team in Chennai, saying we couldn't remove our own police forces, top rank officers, defamatory post. That's when they told me, that's how, we are not able to curb this particular crime. And that's when I was like, wow, if a police officer's post, derogatory post cannot be taken down, and where am I basically? Because I'm sure it's a problem, it's a concern. And that's where it's a problem. And to state that all these guys can actually, it's not required that Aadhaar should be linked. It's just that these guys can give their addresses of IP address. It's pretty simple, straightforward from so every social media. Most of them have their own offices.
Mr. Singh, do you think it's as straightforward? This is regarding a derogatory remark. Next could be a racially driven remark. Next could be a communally sensitive remark here. It could be taking in any dimension, and the police that remains helpless, which is why this is such a huge concern, Mr. Singh.
So without prejudice to the case under question, first of all, that the law does not make a distinction between any entity, be it a police officer, be it anybody. If in the individual capacity, the law does not and should not make any distinction. Secondly, we have found that the response of these companies is improving now. We have been in constant communication with them. In cases, they have also proactively helped us. Like in one case in Pune, a person wrote that he's about to commit suicide. So one of these social media platforms, they called us. We could track that individual and prevent him from, harming himself. But in other cases, we have seen.
All right, but this is from case to case. We're looking at a universal law or a law across India that could work in nabbing cyber criminals without putting to threat the data and the information which is private to individuals, to good citizens here who are certainly not indulging in cyber crime. So that's the the midway approach. We'll have to, of course, eventually see how the Supreme Court takes this into account, because at the end of the day, it is dealing with a very heinous form of crime, cyber crime, and can the Aadhaar linkage actually rein in cybercrime? Thank you for being with us.